When I was a kid, I remember hearing and seeing Left 4 Dead 2 everywhere. There were ads on TV, and even after it was released, there were small animations about it. And after I bought it, people were still making animations, making mods, making videos. Even to this day, people still make videos and add-ons about this game. And it's been out for more than a decade. For some, like TF2, the characters of Left 4 Dead 2 have become one with the internet and will probably be remembered far past all of our expiration dates. Pretty insane, huh? Now, to be fair, putting any game against prime Valve games is some seriously ridiculous expectations. What I'm trying to say is that before any of my friends told me about Vermintide, I had no idea it existed. I'm being serious, especially the first game compared to a game like Left 4 Dead 1. Left 4 Dead 1 was picked up almost instantly. It did so great. If it wasn't for my friend telling me about Vermintide 1, I would have never known it existed. And honestly, I believe it's because whoever was in charge of advertising the Vermintide series, they must have just called out of work. Like, the timing was horrendous or something. Something went wrong. Vermintide is kind of underground. I don't understand why. It should be really considered on par with Left 4 Dead 2, both in gameplay, death, story, and characters. And the only explanation I have is that there wasn't enough exposure to the game. It's as simple as that. Left 4 Dead 2 runs on almost everything. And I mean, I was running this game on a family PC when I was a kid. A PC that was like $300 bought randomly by my parents at Walmart, and it still ran at 60 FPS on the lowest settings while recording. And even if your PC is literally the size of a phone with add-ons, it can probably still run. The game was built to run on everything with the help of the community and very easy to navigate workshop. Can turn Left 4 Dead 2 into literally an old game like Doom. I don't know, the graphics could be changed that drastically because of add-ons. Vermintide 2, on the other hand, is a very pretty game. Like, the graphics are really good. And I'm not one of those people who's gonna say we need to hold back games graphics for the sake of performance, because modern games are just getting so pretty that I don't even know what to say to your PC. I mean, all of our PCs are probably crying out loud. We just can't hear it. We cannot deny that there is some sort of correlation between performance and some of the best-selling games in history. Think about Tetris and Minecraft. They could be ran in almost every PC. Well, depends on the version of Minecraft. But older versions, yeah. GTA 5 takes a lot to run on PC, so this statement isn't always true, but even that game has mods that help run the game even better. And Nintendo games are just console only, so I'm not sure. It doesn't apply everywhere. But it seems like there is some sort of connection between some high performance games and success. I think part of the reason why Vermintide 2 didn't catch on as well is because it's a heavier game to run, cutting a decent percentage of players who are able to play the game. While I'm not saying that we should hold games back for good graphics, I never want to oppose that idea. That's not what I'm saying here. I'm saying that maybe there is a part of players who were never able to play the game because graphics are just that heavy. Maybe that's why it's not played or remembered as well as Left 4 Dead 2. This part I don't really understand. Left 4 Dead 2's gameplay may seem simple, but when taken to a higher level, it becomes one of the most complex games ever to master. B-hopping, tank tech, animation canceling, freaking jumping out the map, that's just to name a few things. It's easy to get into and hard to master. Vermintide took this and made it even better. Learning from Left 4 Dead 2 on easier difficulties, you could basically swing and press W and you'll be fine. The same thing can be said in Left 4 Dead 2 on the easier difficulties. You can shoot and move and you'll be fine. But to master both games is one hell of an endeavor. Just to name a few things, in Vermintide 2 you need to learn how to push block combo, you need to know each attack pattern, when to dodge, when to block, when to parry. It's just as complex as learning how to frickin' B-hop in Left 4 Dead 2. The gameplay of both games are different, yet follow the same philosophy. If you separate, it gets hard. Stay together and it's easier. But if you're good enough, you can beat the game alone with skill. They both have a director. They both have bosses. They both have horrors that spawn randomly. In terms of gameplay, Vermintide 2 feels like an evolution of Left 4 Dead 2's gameplay, with the ults and the special abilities and the movement. To a Left 4 Dead 2 player, really hits the spot. I don't know how else to put it. Just look at this. The shoving in both games are almost identical. That's how similar they are. Yet Vermintide 2's gameplay is just so satisfying. Hitting the entire horde with a grey hammer feels like hitting an entire horde with a fire axe. Both games give so much feedback to the player with the sound effects, the ragdolls, and the characters acknowledging the carnage you're inflicting. If we look deeper into the higher difficulties, the games become even more similar. Expert realism is basically cataclysm. Uncommon infected are elites in Left 4 Dead 2. The bosses are all echoes of the tank. They may do different things, they may have different abilities, but they all follow the same principles the tank does. Follow you and hit you. But each boss requires you to do something different to fight them, unlike the tank where it's pretty much the same method to beat him. Common infected are tankier, but so are the commons in Vermintide 2 when you increase the difficulties. Vermintide 2 saw what Left 4 Dead 2 did and decided to increase the variety tenfold, as bringing variety to how to deal with commons in the game only spices the gameplay. Vermintide 2 saw the differences in weapons, and on top of that, the different classes that use those weapons differently. So it evolved that variety from Left 4 Dead 2 to even more variety with the different weapons and careers. So basically, Vermintide 2 improved upon the gameplay of Left 4 Dead 2. And I'm not afraid to say that. If you could look past the fact that Left 4 Dead 2 is a gun game and Vermintide 2 is a melee game, which honestly, they still play the same. And as a Left 4 Dead 2 fan, I could say that they're more similar than probably any other game that's like Left 4 Dead 2 with guns. It's a perfect combat system. I don't know how they did it, but it's probably the most unique melee combat system I've seen in a game in a long time. Look, I could ramble on forever, but it'll never do the game justice. What I'm trying to say is that if Vermintide 2's gameplay is so good and is such an improvement upon Left 4 Dead 2's gameplay, then why didn't it do better than Left 4 Dead 2? Well, that's why I'm left wondering. I don't know. I have a couple of theories, but none of these are confirmations to why that happened. There's a meta. Picking the right skills is essential to feeling powerful in Vermintide 2. The thing is, the skill tree can be pretty complicated to someone who is new. Not to mention, these skills need to be paired with the right weapons and the right traits, along with the right weapon properties and the right trinkets and necklaces, which have their own properties. Already I know your head is shaking. Now you have to pick the best in-slot stuff to make yourself feel as powerful as you already do in Left 4 Dead 2. On top of that, there are consequences to not picking the right things, compared to Left 4 Dead 2, where there's almost no consequences to picking a bad weapon. Yes, it's harder to play the game, but it only applies in the hardest of hardest difficulties, and versus, because you're playing against real players. It's literally pick up a weapon and play, and almost everything will work. Compared to if you pick a weapon on Bounty Hunter just to pick one, you'll really be messing up your skill tree and weapon properties if you do not pick the right ones, like Scrounger, and you just have no ammo on a career that's primarily range based. You're in for an ass whooping. Left 4 Dead 2 is much simpler to understand, and while Left 4 Dead 2 doesn't really explain that much to the player, it still is way more easy to pick up compared to Vermintide 2, where there are so many ways to attack in the game. Simple things like pressing mouse 1 can mean the difference between a single attack and a sweep attack. And no, it's not like a sweep attack is always a heavy attack, and a heavy attack is not always a single attack if you hold down mouse 1 or you don't hold down mouse 1. For example, the halberd. In order to do the sweep attack, you have to attack and then block, or do a light attack and then a heavy attack. If you mess up this combo, you can't do the sweep, resulting in instant death. Now again, this isn't a bad thing. It just requires a lot of mastery to pull it off compared to Left 4 Dead 2's combat, where you can just pick it up and be pretty good at it right off the bat. And even more about the halberd, every heavy attack can be either a single attack, like the poke, or a sweep attack, like the sweep. And both are triggered by holding down mouse 1. The only way to get the animation that you want is to do a certain attack pattern. Now this is just getting to confusing levels of rambling, but my point is, if Vermintide 2 improved upon the combat of Left 4 Dead 2, it should be more popular. But I just don't know why it isn't. And the only reason I could kind of attach that to is that it's just too complicated for the average player. Left 4 Dead 2 does have a progression system, but it's all in-game. There are no levels, no icons, no rewards that follow you outside of the campaign. Everything is unlocked from the get-go. Even the difficulties. For a game so casual, it literally does not hold you back. You can play expert realism the moment the game is downloaded. There's no tutorial, no crazy freaking you have to do this mission to play the rest of the game. None of that. And the funny thing is, Vermintide has a tutorial level, but it really does not teach you enough. It's equivalent to freaking TF2's tutorial, which it's not that bad, but it's slightly better. The game only starts when you unlock every single character and talent in the skill tree, along with every, I almost want to say red weapon, but just for the sake of it, I'm just going to say orange weapon. Compare this to Left 4 Dead 2, where you don't need to do any of that. Vermintide 2, most of the careers are not open to the player to the get-go. You have to level through the game, which, to be honest, feels like a waste of time. Without certain talents, it feels like you're playing the game with a straight up worse version of what the career is supposed to be. Only then, when you unlock every character, does the game actually start. Even though they've improved the XP system, it's still confusing as to why all of this is locked behind a pointless grind that doesn't really feel that good once finished. By the time you get to level 35 on each character, you're pretty burnt out and you just don't even understand. I just don't understand the point of the grind being that long and locking the player from getting the other characters instantly. I don't see a benefit to it other than trying to increase the playtime. But the game is so good that they don't need to do that. It'll be the exact same if they didn't have this leveling system. I promise you, both games have a pretty high value replay rate. Both have plenty of maps and sub-game modes that continue to make the game fresh, and both have a versus mode that honestly you can't compare. Vermintide 2's versus can be another video on its own. It's pretty bad. Vermintide 2's entire loot system gives the player a reason to continue going for hours. Unlock all the red variants of the weapons. Do Akari's challenges. There's dailies, weeklies, monthlies. Has its own completely different events and unlockable skins. On top of that, Versus has its own progression system after you spend hours completing the main game. Insane how much value you get out of your money in this game. And Left 4 Dead 2 has none of that. But why? Why is it that even though it doesn't have any of that stuff, does it feel more replayable? Well, it is because the reason why I got bored of Vermintide 2 faster than I do Left 4 Dead 2 is easy. It has nothing to do with the gameplay or unlockables or loot, or even harder difficulties, or basically challenges that give you nothing of value except XP. It's the deal breaker of this entire video. It's what makes Left 4 Dead 2 better than Vermintide 2. The workshop. Simple as that. That's the answer. Before I get really into the workshop aspect of this conversation, I just want to talk real quick about the story. Vermintide 2 has a better story than Left 4 Dead 2. I don't care what the Left 4 Dead 2 fans say. I'm a fan of Left 4 Dead 2, and almost 6,000 hours collectively between me and my friend, and we both still don't understand what's happening in Left 4 Dead 2. You have to watch countless videos to get an idea of what's happening. And yeah, there's writings on the wall, but come on, that's not gonna make you understand everything that's going on in the story. There's about the only thing you need to understand is that the Left 4 Dead 2 survivors are trying to escape. How everything else happened, why there's infected running around, we'll never know. Apparently something about the green flu, but you have to read the comments outside of the game to understand that stuff. Guess what? Vermintide 2 has the exact same issues, except in the main missions. There's a reason for everything you do in the main missions of Vermintide 2. To stop the freaking Skittergate, which will allow the armories of the bad guys instant teleportation to where they need to go. It's almost like the Combine all over again with their teleportation thing. Our mission is to put an end to that mess. And we do. It's a pretty epic conclusion from the beginning of Vermintide 1 to the end of Vermintide 2. All including one bad guy, Rasnid, who's just trying to take over the world. After this, I don't know what the developers went through. They just ran out of ideas and started throwing things against the wall and seeing if it sticks. The Chaos Waste was close to having a solid plot line, but then the characters go completely quiet after the last mission and never talk about the events after the Chaos Waste. And the DLCs and the new maps are even worse, with critical events happening off screen and only explained in Loner's Chronicles, similar to certain things that are crucial to the story, like the green flu in the military being destroyed in the comics of Left 4 Dead 2, which is outside of the game. Like, what type of clowny idea was that? Who thought of that? Let's have major story events, like the crew literally fighting each other in Vermintide 2 to the death off screen, or having the Chaos Blessing from the Chaos Waste being a trick that happened off screen. It's like the writers forgot that the writing needs to be put in the game, not outside the game. Like, exposed to our eyes. We need to see it through the game, not in Loner's diary. Who Who's gonna go out of their way to read Loner's diary? I can't even say the writing is bad, because it's not. It's just the way they put it in the game is so stupid. Essential dialogue that needed to explain the things that are happening, the story, the plotline, are cancelled or straight out. Just not said because they get interrupted by a Chaos Warrior or something. I don't even know. It's just a glitch, leaving players confused despite replaying maps hundreds of times. People say stories in games don't really matter, but I've never seen a game not benefit from a good story. Meanwhile, I've seen games with bad stories only do worse because of it. But let's get back to the deal breaker, the workshop. The workshop is the reason why Left 4 Dead 2 stands strong. The amount of content there is to play, the sheer amount of skins, different game modes, the maps, it's almost infinite. No matter how much content is put in Vermintide 2, which to be fair, for a small company, is impressive, it will never match up to the workshop. That's why I truly believe Left 4 Dead 2 is better than Vermintide 2. Even after all the improvements that Vermintide made out of Left 4 Dead 2's formula and philosophies. Base games, if we were to compare Vermintide 2 to base Left 4 Dead 2, I'm meaning with no add-ons, Vermintide 2 would be slightly better. But not including the workshop is pretty stupid. Since it's so easy to download content, it may as well be a part of the game. And both games on console are not going to be debated here because I'm only using the PC versions of these games because the console versions are not even updated. If there's something you don't like in Left 4 Dead 2, boom, add-on. If there's something you're looking at, if there's something you'd rather look at than Lewis, then boom, add-on. If you're freaky, there's an add-on for it. What does Vermintide 2 add-ons have? Nothing. Because the creators don't support modding, nor even set it up properly in the menu. You need an add-on to make the other add-ons work, and with each update, more and more Vermintide 2 add-ons are becoming unstable. No more mod support equals no longevity. Think about some of the most long-lasting games, with a few exceptions. They have not lasted long without A, a constant, and I mean constant stream of updates, or B, infinite content with mods or community efforts. Vermintide 2 sadly doesn't have either one going for it. My opinion, Vermintide 2 is one of those games I play and get deeply depressed when playing it. It has everything a good game has. The characters, the gameplay, the story, the music, but some of the small choices, some small mistakes, maybe bad timing, maybe advertising have affected this game's popularity and longevity, and chances are the future of maybe a third game, we'll never know. I think this game should have been bigger. It should have been remembered, and it should stand alongside some of the most long-lasting games ever made. But while it had good success, I don't think it'll ever reach the height of really successful games, even if they make a third game, if they continue with the choices they have made. And I'm not sure why. When we compare it to its inspiration, we have small clues, no solid answers to why it's not as big as Left 4 Dead 2.